Hey. So, I want to firstly apologise that I've not been doing much video stuff in the past 2 weeks. With Wrath release and me trying to move into a new job, it's been quite a interesting experience. That's no excuse though. I definitely had time where I could have done some videos, so I do apologise for that. But here I am, going to be doing some more now. I've kind of thought to myself for a few weeks that I would like to do a sort of casual sort of me talking to you about topics in WoW, things that I'm interested in talking about, and things I'm interested in hearing what you think about while doing menial tasks like my morning cobalt routine. So this is my cobalt routine. The idea is that I do my jewel crafting daily quest and I do a couple of laps for cobalt. I make daily titan steel when you make it. So the idea is just that I'm here, I have a cup of coffee with me, you're going to hear me take a little break to sip it. It's just a very casual me and you conversation. So one thing that's been playing on my mind recently is the future of classic WoW. Because it's up in the air at the moment, really, if you think about it. Wrath was the pinnacle of WoW's popularity, right? This is when they had the most subs, the most playing. A lot of people there's two types of people with Wrath. There are people that played it and enjoyed it. Sorry, three types really then. There are people that played it and enjoyed it and tell people they enjoyed it and can remember it quite vividly. There are people that didn't play it but say it was the best because it's what everybody else says. And then you've got people who like to go against the grain who say it's not very good. Personally for me, I think Wrath's okay. I didn't enjoy it as much as TBC, but that's probably because of more social situations than it was the actual game. But anyway, what happens now? We're in Wrath. We've got maybe a year to a year and a half's worth of content to do in Wrath. And then what? Nax is already over. I mean, we went in and most people went in and cleared it the first week this week. I've done it 3 times now, right? So what is the future? I mean, they've recently put out leaflets to say Cataclysm. Now, that's a weird one. Because I have mixed feelings about Cataclysm. I really enjoyed it at the beginning. Right at the beginning, when I first played Cataclysm, I really enjoyed it. The dungeons were hard. The raids were hard. And then they slapped a big nerf on top of everything, which kind of put a sour taste in my mouth. And then I had to stop playing it because I was going to fail my GCSEs. So I never got to do Firelands. So personally for me, I would like to go back and do Cataclysm. I don't think that's a bad idea. I would probably quit the Firelands because Dragon Soul for me was when I came back and it was awful. I had a bit of fun there playing a Holy Paladin, but meh, really wasn't for me. So I'd love to do Firelands. Definitely Heroic Ragnaros. It was a very big moment when he stepped out of the lava for the first time. So I wouldn't mind doing that, to be honest. But is there other options? And this is what I'm thinking is I think a lot of people, the general consensus I've got off a lot of people is that Cataclysm ain't it. They're not really bothered about Cataclysm. So is there other things that they could do? I have to excuse me 2 seconds, I'm going to sneeze. Sorry about that. So what other options do they have? Now, I'm going to be completely honest. From recent things that I've been seeing and the way that they've handled certain achievements and things in the game and adding like mounts, they've all been copies, right? The tabard you got for hardcore and all this sort of stuff is just been a tabard from TCG or a mount from TCG. And what this lends me to believe, and this might be a bit rude, but I don't believe they have the capacity to create brand new content. I don't believe they have the capacity, for instance, to make a brand new raid for Wrath and slap it at the end of Wrath and go bang, Wrath Plus, a whole new tier set models, fights, everything. I don't believe that's a possibility. That is a monumental amount of work. And I think that if they were to do that, they could technically botch it up, and then it would cause even more drama than doing it in the first place, right? Where the hell is this mine? So I don't think they have the manpower or time to be able to do that. I don't. So I don't think pure Classic Plus content, brand new things we've never seen before, is a possibility, because I just don't believe the team has the time to do it. So what does that leave us with then? Now, one concept that's come to mind, I believe is a really good idea, is that if anyone looked at Season of Mastery and looked at Molten Core, the changes that what they are good at is making changes to existing content, right? They're making some brand new changes to existing content. For instance, the loot decision they made, which I've talked about in my previous video, for future contents of Wrath, was fantastic in my opinion. I think that's really good. I think that lends the game to be more active. You can play with a smaller group of friends. It opens up content in the game, which is a fantastic change. And I believe that's one thing the Classic team does pretty well, is the ability to augment existing content. So, is that a possibility, but in a different light? So think of Season of Mastery. We just finished Classic, Vanilla, and then they said, Season of Mastery, here you go. You know, we just ran the marathon of Vanilla, but now they want us to run it again with laser beams? No. I think Season of Mastery was a fantastic idea, but it was implemented at the wrong time. Why would we go and do the thing we've just done with a few extra laser beams when we could go and do TBC? So I think the turnout that they got in Season of Mastery was terrible because of timing more than anything. But I was extremely interested in it. I wanted to see what it was all about. So I had a look at Molten Core. And the changes they made in Molten Core were fantastic, actually. If you go back and look at the changes that came to Molten Core, the way that they augmented boss fights to, you know, slowly to change them in a certain way was really good. I don't believe that was a bad change. So, for me, that could be a possible future again, but maybe with some added bits. So, sorry about the little time skip there. So what I mean by this is they could go back, do Season of Mastery and the same sort of thing again, but make some bigger changes, right? So, for instance, the one big issue that I had with Classic that kind of annoyed me, and yes, I know there should always be the experience of Classic without these, because people like the die-hard experience. I love Vanilla. I don't want you to change anything. Make those servers for those people. They are a minority. They will just sit in their own little bubble and enjoy life. That's great. But I think Season of Mastery could be a future. I'd like to go back at the end of Wrath. We would have had, what, 4 years break of Vanilla by then? But go back and have maybe, you know, some class changes. Give Paladins Taunt. Give Boomkins and Shadow Priests and Elemental Shamans some way of regaining mana. You know, maybe make a token system instead of a flat tier piece dropping system. And then make a few sets. So for Paladins, they could make a healing variant of Judgment. They could make a DPS variant of Judgment, and they could make a tanking version of Judgment, and you won't have to create any new models, you won't have to sit any new models on top of existing characters or anything like that. It's literally just a stat change, and they should understand the stats by now, and it would be some set bonus changes, make something interesting, you know. Judgment could be very simple. When you judge, you gain shield block rate, you gain shield block percentage chance, etc, etc, right? Very easy, simple changes that would make a high impact to the game. On top of that, giving class changes like Paladin's Taunt, Ret, Crusader Strike, you know, Priest the ability to gain mana somehow so that they're, you know, not completely useless and ooming, and then change the raiding content as they did in Season of Mastery. I think a lot of people might enjoy that, because it would technically be new, because Paladins didn't really tank in Classic, in Vanilla. I mean, I did on mine, all the way up to Nax. But apart from that, I didn't really. You know, not many people did. It was a very unique experience. It was something that was completely different because some of you might not know, but paladin tanking in Classic actually requires you to go for attack power and strength, sort of how it is in Wrath now for single target bosses, and not spell power, which is interesting, something you might go back and have a look at. But going back to vanilla, adding more options, making the game a little more interesting for people instead of, you know, the usual warrior ook, you know, taking world buffs away as they did in Season of Mastery. Pretty please, thank you. And just making the game a little bit more interesting. And then when Molten Core is done, we're all said and done, doing what they did, what they're going to do in Wrath, where they put Molten Core gear potentially into like heroic plus, you know, dungeons at the end of Classic, would for me be really fun. I'd love to play Classic again, but be able to go, actually, what's the scope? What can I play? And well, Shadow Priest is pretty good, Boomkin is pretty good, Feral DPS is pretty good, Elemental Shaman's pretty good, because in vanilla, if you weren't a mage, a warlock, or warrior, you weren't really doing damage, right? You were a glorified support class in some way, shape, or form, or you were somebody who liked to go against the grain, be a bit, you know, of the underdog. Very boring. So if they went back and just made changes like that, they don't have to create brand new models or brand new encounters. They just have to slightly augment what they've already done. And I mean, like I said, they already did Molten Core. Go and have a look at the videos. It was fantastic. Baron Geddon was an awesome fight. There was 3 debuffs. They dropped stuff on the floor when you drop the debuffs off. His immolation aura thing that the Nova thing he did leaves a massive circle on the floor, so you had to bring him back into Gar's room, and you had to kite him around the room, etc. It was a really good augmentation of a fight we'd already done, and it looked really fun. If the leveling wasn't so, yeah, I would have probably played it a bit, but we were so worn out by just doing it that it was a big mountain to climb. So outside of this, I'm not 100% sure. As I said, I don't believe the possibility of Wrath Plus exists. I don't. I can't see them making a brand new raid with brand new encounters, brand new tier set, new models. That's the biggest thing. You got to remember that. When have they created a brand new model in Classic? None of the mounts were brand new. None of the TC. They just put TCG mounts in. None of the tabard rewards were brand new. They just used TCG stuff. So it was. I don't think they have that capacity to be able to do that. And that's not. I'm not being rude. I'm not saying they're not. You know, if they had more staff and more time, they pretty much could. But they don't. So I don't believe Wrath Plus is a thing. I think our options are Cataclysm or augmented old content. And I think if they go into Cataclysm with the some changes movement they've done in this expansion, we could see that. We could see some pretty good changes. But I'm just a little bit. Cataclysm was when they started to minimalize the game. Right, talent trees got minimalized. They got taken down a bit into smaller trees. You couldn't really hybrid spec anymore because you had to pick a specialization before you could even put talent points in. So you were locked into that tree for a certain amount of talent points before you could even put into another tree. So the flexibility of dual specking, of being a hybrid spec, didn't exist then. And all in all, things that they made changes, the changes they made in Clatter, they are now trying to unchange in Dragonflight and future content. So it's this weird concept of they would start going downhill or down towards changes they made, which is not good. So yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this morning coffee sort of talking style content. I hope. Let me know what you think. This is my daily routine in the morning. It makes me a little bit of gold, you know, like a podcasty sort of chill in the morning. You can probably hear I'm very not long woken up. So if you have any ideas of what you would like to speak about or anything like that, please let me know. This is just my opinion, by the way. This is not the future. This is not the guaranteed future. Cataclysm is on the table because they've sent thingies out. But this is just another thought line, maybe. Not saying it's right. Not saying your opinion's wrong. Just saying, you know, I could potentially see this happening. So thank you very much for your time. Don't steal my cobalt. Thank you very much. Stay away. This is my cobalt route. And until next time, peace.